Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, does your film opinion matter if you haven't seen Cats? No, so take this entire episode with a grain of salt. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me this episode, Nicholas Pryor.
I'm also your host, Ashley Hobley.
No, still not. And
I'm also your host, Nicholas Pryor, interrupting.
no, that's Dylan Blight. That's everybody.
And I'm Ashley Hobley.
Don't know why this is a joke. We got a huge episode. We're talking about what's in our watch history. We're going over our Trakt year in review. Still not sponsored. We'll be talking about our top 10 movies of 2019. And then we'll talk about the movie that we ended up watching, The Station Agents. But let's jump into our watch history first. I think we'll get a couple of quick hits in first. Obviously, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker came out. We did a massive podcast over on Alderaan Explosion, which you can find on explosionnetwork.com or on youtube.com/Explosion Network. No.
That is right. YouTube.com/Explosion Network.
Did we put that there, though?
Yeah, it's audio only, but it exists.
Yes. So Nick wasn't on that episode. Nick, what are your feelings on Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker?
It was average.
Cool. Don't want to elaborate anymore?
Not without going into spoilers, no.
All right.
It was just, I guess, kind of disappointing how high I was going to the beginning of the trilogy and how down I was coming out of it, I guess.
Yep, that's a fair... Well, at least we're all in agreement. Dylan, do you want to express your feelings in 3 words about the film? Because you feel like you're avoiding talking about it anymore.
And only 3 words.
Only 3 words.
Really fucking disappointed.
I'm proud of you.
My 3 words would be overstuffed, safe, underwhelming.
All right, you used descriptors while I made a sentence.
Yeah, I know. I knew how the game was being played. Dylan
gets bonus points for that. So if you keep a score at home, Dylan's on top.
Also, we've completed this season of The Mandalorian. You can go over to explosionnetwork.com or youtube.com/Explosion Network to see The Mandalorians, where me and Dylan have broken down every single episode. But Nick, how did you feel about The Mandalorian?
It's really, really good. It's such a stark contrast of the 2 most recent Star Wars things we got. It's really crazy that 2 different quality levels could exist at the same time, I guess.
Cool. Dylan, how would you express your feelings about The Mandalorian in 3 words?
I got really happy.
That's 4 words.
Really happy is 1 word. It doesn't count. It's like saying "the" at the start of a movie title.
My 3 words would be save Baby Yoda. That's all you need to know.
Kill Jason Sudeikis.
Kill Jason Sudeikis. The worst villain in Star Wars this year. Yeah. As being the most terrible, the best.
The most villainous.
The most villainous with most clear motivations. Anyway. Also, we did a spoiler discussion of Watchmen, which you can find in the What Do You Want to Watch feed, or at explosionnetwork.com, or at youtube.com/Explosion Network. Me and Dylan gave our thoughts. Nick, what did you think of the complete season of Watchmen?
Phenomenal.
Dylan, Dylan, what are your thoughts on Watchmen in 3 words?
Obviously we talked about in the top 10. I'm going beyond 3 words quickly. We talked about it last week. My thoughts didn't change. There's my 3 words. My thoughts didn't change. Not last week before. Last episode.
Yes, my 3 words would be still second best. Because it was number 2 on my list. Yeah, that's everything for now. Dylan, you watched Frozen 2 in the lead up to The Rise of Skywalker. arguably the better of the two films in your opinion?
Not arguably. It is. I mean, if I had the time, I was legit driving home the other day, and without spoilers, I was like, there's a weird amount of parallels between the themes that both Frozen 2 and Rise of Skywalker tackle, because they're both about family and like knowing who you are, and it doesn't matter where you come from. But Frozen 2 does it so better. It's amazing. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than the first movie. Obviously, we talked about it on here when I watched the first movie. I only watched it late last year for the first time. I enjoyed this one a lot more. It's very beautiful looking. Obviously, it's stunning animation looking film. But because the characters go to places that aren't just freaking snow everywhere, I think I enjoyed the environmental changes quite a lot. And then each character gets more time, I guess, because it's not just Elsa on the run this time. They're kind of more of a group for the majority of this movie. And then also, I meant to blank on his fucking name. What's the snowman's name? Oh, God damn it.
Olaf,
thank you.
Josh Gad.
Yes, yeah, all the same. Olaf in this film is hilarious. He has one song that I've found someone uploaded onto YouTube, and I've watched it several times because the song's very good, but the song with the video is even funnier just because of what he's doing and when it's happening. And yeah, I've rewatched that and laughed several times. And I also just think it's one of those things. It's one of those songs and those perfect like comedic Olaf things that all the kids in my screening were like giggling at and laughing at. So, which I found very joyful to hear the kids enjoying the funny Olaf things or whatever. So, no, I really enjoyed it, and I liked it a lot more than the first one. I would watch it again. I want to watch it again.
Cool. I was fortunate to go to an advanced screening of Jumanji: The Next Level, thanks to Sony Pictures, Event Cinemas, and M10 Collective. Say with confidence. If you liked the first film, you'll like the second film. If you didn't like the first film, this one isn't going to do much to change your opinion, I don't think. The difference this time is that The Rock and Kevin Hart play old people for a part of the script, which is amusing for a period of time. It starts to lose its appeal, like part of the way through, I felt. I didn't love the voice that The Rock was using to play his version of Danny DeVito. But that comes to an end at a certain point thanks to video game aesthetic things. But yeah, I had a good time. I think it's a fun film. It's all the main four cast of in-game characters are super charismatic, so it's hard not to like them. Of course, then they add Awkwafina in this film, who plays an interesting character. Well, I guess is an interesting avatar, because technically in this game they're playing their people, so I guess it's very confusing to explain to a certain degree. And it also looks like it's setting up a potential third film, which would be interesting if they follow the direction I think they're following. Also want to mention, I saw Jumanji in 4DX, which is a new, I guess, experience that you can have in certain cinemas. I believe there's only 5 cinemas currently in Australia that show it in 4DX. It's pretty much another experience. Like you sit in like in hydraulic seats. They blow wind and air and water and stuff in time with the movie and that kind of thing. I think it enhanced the experience. it actually, I feel like it did enhance the experience. I
remember sitting in something like that at Movie World over a decade ago.
Yeah, it's like that, except better and just more in time with the movie. It's like a big started in Korea. It's pretty much slowly making its way across the globe. So I did an article up at explosionhour.com you can find. It's called "What is 4DX and Why Should You Care?" I think that was the title.
Something along
check
those
that
lines.
out. Yes, it was an enjoyable experience. I don't think it's going to be for everyone. I think it's a fun thing to do with friends. I think as a group experience, it could be like you're all giggling along as the ride, the hydraulics moves around in action sequences and that kind of thing. They've got like little air things near your head. So like in one sequence in the movie, there's a bunch of ostriches attacking the vehicle they're in, and the air would blow in time with like the ostrich attacks. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing that should be experienced at least once. I mean, maybe it could even improve my viewing of Rise of Skywalker, if I go said in that. Moving on. Dylan, you watched Kiwi Christmas. Obviously right before Christmas, I guess. What is Kiwi Christmas? And
this is my one Christmas movie of the year, and it was very bad.
Really? Second, too.
What? What else did I watch?
I watched Nightmare Before Christmas last
that's right.
episode.
No, I mean, new Christmas movie.
That Halloween movie.
Jesus, new Christmas movie. I was scrolling through iTunes, and I saw it was on sale for like 99-cent rental, and it had really bad score and everything.
You had access to both Klaus, which I said you should definitely watch. This is the best thing new this year, or Noel, which is an easy thing to watch on Disney Plus, or the plethora of Christmas stuff that's on Netflix. You had to go buy something.
What you're failing to understand...
Choosing to support the New Zealand film industry instead of the Australian film industry.
What you're failing to understand is the movie's called Kiwi Christmas, and the poster was hilarious, and the title was hilarious, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to watch a movie called Kiwi Christmas, which I could only presume was going to be bad, but like hilariously bad. So it's basically like Santa Claus, he's over there, he's getting sick of kids asking for Game Boys and shit. So he's like, fuck this, peace out guys, I'm going on a holiday. So he takes off in the sled, and then he's floating above New Zealand having a cackle away. He's like, I'm done with Christmas, I'm down, I can't be bothered. And long story short, he lands in New Zealand, and where this family is currently on holiday, where the mum and dad are on the edge of a breakup, it seems, and they got two kids, a girl and a boy there. And Santa washes up on the beach, and then they're like, "Oh look, bloody, you passed out, mate. You're drunk. What's going on?" And then they befriend him and they bring him back, and they're like, they have a few jokes about how Kiwi slang and Santa Claus doesn't understand what's happening. And long story short, to spoil the movie because it doesn't matter, at the end of the movie, they reveal, it's revealed he's Santa Claus. Goes back to North Pole, happy ever after. It's basically like a Home and Away Christmas movie, like quality-wise and acting-wise. And it was quite, it's not very good. I wouldn't suggest watching it. But it was a laugh. It was a laugh for not the reasons it wanted it to be, but for the reasons that I enjoyed it for. You know what I mean? You know why people watch Sharknado? That's why I watch this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So we've both done a bit of catching up on stuff from the ahead of our top 10 list, which you can hear later in the episode. Dylan, you watched The Kid Who Would Be King. Was that even in contention for your top 10? Directed by, what's his name? Joe Cornish.
Yes, that's it, Joe. I don't know if this was ever in contention. I always wanted to watch it because he directed it, and I'm a big fan of Attack the Block. So that is the reason I wanted to watch it. I feel like if it wasn't directed by him, I may have never watched it because the trailer always made it look silly. The movie's a lot better than the trailers made it look. The trailer makes it look like a real kiddies movie, like 10-year-olds type level, I feel. But once you get into it, the special effects and everything's quite good, and there's some funny parts. Like, it's generally very enjoyable. It's about this kid. He's getting bullied one day, and he runs away from these bullies at school. It's set in London or wherever, British somewhere. And then he falls into a construction site, knocks over something, finds a sword in a rock. He pulls it out. Lo and behold, Excalibur, right? So then the prophecies foretold. He's the next in line of King Arthur or whatever is the thing. Merlin ends up turning back up, which they have two actors play Merlin. I can't remember off the top of my head the young version, but Patrick, not Swayze, John Picard. Who's Picard?
Patrick Stewart.
Stewart, thank you. Fucking hell, it's too hot. It's long. We're going on holiday soon, thank God. Patrick Stewart plays the older version of Merlin, but then he's trying to appear in a younger body because he's trying to blend in with the kids and whatever else. So they have some funny scenes with him switching backwards and forwards and whatever. That's quite enjoyable. The person who plays the young version of Merlin is the standout from the movie. He is very, very funny. He has generally some very funny lines and bits and pieces. And the fact that he sneezes and turns into a bird and hits some windows a couple times, I laughed. I don't know if I should laugh, but I did laugh. But otherwise, it's generally just a feel-good take on the tale that we all know. And if you enjoy a King Arthur type tale and a different spin on it, then I would actually say checking it out. And don't judge the book by its cover, because although it is a PG movie aimed for, your family or whatever, it's not aimed at 10-year-olds. It would be aimed at like 13, 14, you know what I mean? Like that age up type thing. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Cool. So I watched Her Smell, a film that came out earlier this year. It's currently available on Amazon Prime. It tells the story of a punk rock vocalist played by Elizabeth Moss called Becky something. She's the lead singer of a band called Something She. It pretty much is told over like 5 scenes or 5 distinct sequences. And pretty much she starts off as like a, the punk rock type, totally batshit crazy kind of, with full-on shamans telling her what she should and shouldn't be doing, and drinking and doing drugs and that kind of thing. And then
Sounds
slowly...
like The Doors.
Yeah. And then, bunch of different interactions along the way, and slowly you could fall from grace and then, a slight comeback. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I think it is a bit of a slog to get through her downfall. It's like hard to watch, I feel like. And it kind of goes on a bit too long on the same note. But Elizabeth Moss is great in it. They also got Gal Rankin, who's from Glow as the She-Wolf. She's one of the band members. And Dan Stevens plays her ex-husband. He's very good as well. But yeah, worth checking out. I think it's been discussed a lot for the top 10s this year. So
I've rented it.
On Amazon Prime for the fee that you pay for Amazon Prime. Dylan, I saw that you watched Fighting With My Family, the wrestling film starring Florence Pugh. Was it just a case of wanting to make sure you're fully up to date on her catalogue of films?
I feel like I might do that, because I think she's like a standout. I think I'm only one movie off watching everything she's been in at this stage, not counting Little Women. Thank you. Not counting that, I think I'm one movie off. But so that was like interesting part of it. But in general, I wanted to watch this movie. I was watching wrestling still on and off when Paige was introduced, so I had a attachment. So, well, not really a big attachment to her story, because I didn't continue watching much long after she came in. Like I kind of waned off wrestling around at that point, not because of her, but just general. That's when I kind of stopped watching. John Cena, really, I didn't like him. But so
he's not around anymore.
Yeah, I know.
He's in the movies now.
He's in the movies now. No, but I enjoyed it. They take a lot of liberties with the story. I know there's a documentary called Fighting With My Family, something or other. So I might watch that as well if I can find where I can get access to that, because that's going to tell like the more.
I feel like
story of Paige.
That's going to be the better story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the better story. But as an enjoyable, like feel good underdog story, this does its job. And I guess you have to have liked or like wrestling a teeny bit to enjoy this, I feel, because you I don't know how much you would enjoy it if you just think wrestling's stupid. Like if you're the kind of person who's like, wrestling's fake, it's stupid, why the fuck, blah, blah, blah. Like I feel like you're just going to hate the movie straight away, because it's very much like supposed to be about like showing off the hard work that wrestlers do to do their job as not only actors but also athletes. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be they show her endurance and like how training and all this sort of thing, but then also being able to like take the hits. People like they talk about breaking bones, all these sorts of things. It's quite funny at times, especially the family scenes. Nick Frost made me laugh quite a lot in the movie several times. Like there's a part early in the movie where her brother has his girlfriend's family over who are posh, and they're being played by like Steve Marchant and someone else, and then his wife says something like, "Oh, it's all fake, isn't it? Though wrestling." And then the way Nick Frost just reacts, and he's like, "Excuse me, what?" Like I was like, that was making me laugh quite a bit. So, and then you see in the credits the real life people they're playing, which made me want to watch that documentary even more, because I was like, wow, they really were like just burly dude, you know, like, oh, family's wrestling. I went to prison for like 10 years for robbing places. Wrestling saved my life. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I was like, fucking hell, they really are like that. But there's some corny scenes with The Rock in it, which felt unnecessary, in my opinion. Like, especially the first time he shows up, it goes for way too long. Then there's another sequence later that I'm like, I feel like these scenes would have been better to have anyone but The Rock do them, because it's just like, he's a superstar these days and they feel like very weird. It doesn't, I know, I just didn't like those, I guess. But other than that, it's just a general feel-good underdog story that I feel like if you like WWE now, you liked it at one stage like I did, then I feel like it's a decent watch, you know? Yeah.
Cool. Nick, I saw that you watched The Sister Brothers starring Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly.
I did. It's been on my list for a little bit. It's because it's based off a book that I've been meaning to read for a while now. It was, I don't know, fine, I guess. I mean, John C. Reilly actually put in a very good dramatic performance in it. Joaquin Phoenix was good as usual, but I guess it felt the tone of it was off. The pacing was kind of off, and yeah, I don't know. Just an odd movie that I wouldn't really recommend anyone to go see, to be honest.
Okay, good to know. Dylan, then you watched the actor award-winning film The Nightingale. Do you want to tell us exactly what The Nightingale is about and then what you thought?
So it's set in a lovely place called Tasmania, but back in back in the horrible. What year would it be set? Fucking like 1100? I don't know. When was the convicts and all that?
1100.
I don't know. I'll just a number off the top of my head. When would it be? Like 17? I don't.
Be like 1800s, 7.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
When all the convicts and stuff. Hold on.
It's like colonist time in Australia. So.
Yeah.
The 1800s.
Set in 1825. All right. Quick Google help me. There you go. So 17 something. I was 100 years off. There you go. 1825 convicts. 800
years off.
No, my first one was just a random number. Then I said something. Anyway, so set down there. I was spoiling the first half an hour because it's pretty much the setup for the movie, and it spoils it in the trailer. But if you want to go in blind, skip ahead, I guess. But this woman, she's down here. She's doing her time. She got moved. She's Irish. Yeah, Irish. So she come down here as a convict. She met a husband. She's married. She's got a baby. They're working for the English. Doing whatever, I don't know what that is. She sings. She's called the Nightingale. That's why it's called that. She sings for him and does chores and whatever else. One of the captain or whatever. I mean, to put it bluntly, he just fucks her whenever he wants and uses her because he can. And then early in the movie, things go really bad. It's a horrific and horrible sequence to watch, which is why I think the movie. A lot of people are talking about it being quite hard to watch and walking out of the cinema and these sorts of things. There is a very prolonged rape scene that ends with all of her family being wiped out and her left for dead pretty much. And then the movie becomes a revenge story of her tracking down the people that did it, the English, I think he's a captain or I don't remember his official ranking, but him and his men who disappear and they're on their journey to Launceston, but they say Launceston? I don't know how they pronounce it, but they go from Hobart to there basically.
Probably
and
the
then
correct way to say it.
No, they say it horribly. But it's a revenge story. It's a thriller from that point on. It's her trying to track him down, and along the way she hires a Aboriginal boy, as they all did back then, and she's horrible to him. But along the way, the two of them form a friendship, I guess, with even hatred for the person they're after, somewhat. So it's definitely not. Let's put this on and let's enjoy watching it movie. I think it's a fantastic movie. Like, it's from Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook. This is her follow-up movie. I think it's a very brave movie for her to make, especially considering the success Babadook had, where she pretty much could have had her pick of Hollywood horror movies. Like, she could have been directing Insidious 3, basically, if she wanted, after The Babadook. But instead of that, she's like, no, I want to keep telling my stories and telling the movies that I want to make and whatever else. And she comes and makes this movie, and it's hard watch, but she doesn't. The reason it's a hard watch is because that time was bad for a lot of people, and she doesn't shy away from showing you how bad lots of Aboriginals had it, and especially they had it. Like, it's especially horrific to watch towards how the people are treating the Aboriginals in the movie. So, I mean, really bad. Like, I've read afterwards people saying that she goes too far with some of the stuff, and I would be like, well, I mean, it's fucked up, but I mean, it's just it's how it is, right? I mean, I don't feel like as a filmmaker she was getting a thrill from getting off on filming these sequences. Like, it just seems like she was just being like, it's fucked. This is it. It's fucked. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a difference, and she doesn't feel like.
I feel like being confrontational about it is more beneficial than watering it down.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't water it down, and that's why it's a hard movie to watch, but it's a very good movie. It would be in my top 20 for sure. It's not a spoiler to say it's not in my top 10 because we wouldn't be talking about it now here, but it would be in my top 20 for sure. It's just a very hard movie to watch.
Cool. I want to mention quickly, I watched The Director and the Jedi after watching Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, oh, I need to feel good about Star Wars. I thought I never got around to watching the Blu-ray documentary that was on there. I think it's really interesting, like, just to see the backstory. Obviously, see Carrie Fisher again responding to other people is really nice. Also, like, to see Mark Hamill's process during that film, where he didn't necessarily agree with the direction they were taking things, but he was a true professional and did what was asked of him. I think it just makes me think more highly of him than I already did. So, and then, you know, it was cool. Ryan Johnson, he's a cool dude. Just seeing him experiencing everything and seeing the sets that he wrote come to life and that kind of thing was cool.
I'm gonna be honest, worth checking out. Between like that and more interviews I've been watching for Knives Out, and even yesterday I listened to a half-hour podcast where there was one I told you about the other week, the Directors Guild one.
The GGS,
yeah. Which is a great podcast. He was being interviewed about Knives Out from Denise Villeneuve. Is that Villeneuve?
Yep.
Villeneuve? I don't know.
Yes.
Anyway, he was interviewing it, and my respect for Ryan Johnson just grows week by week, I swear. Even after watching Rise of Skywalker, it grows exponentially. What a good guy. What a nice man he is. That's what I'm going to say. What a nice man. Great filmmaker. Nice man.
Nice man, good filmmaker. I also he's done in the past episodes interviews on the Slash Filmcast where he trolls the interviewers, which I enjoy very much as well as a longtime fan of that podcast. Okay, so I've watched the first 5 episodes that dropped of the 4th season of Rick and Morty. It's more Rick and Morty. If you like Rick and Morty, you're gonna like this. It feels very much the same. Which is good. That's fine. It obviously there's been slight ramifications from the end of the 3rd season. Like he's got to ask Morty permission before he takes him out on adventures, but that doesn't last very long, you know. And they get into more sci-fi misadventures, including an episode which is pretty much just the Terminator, but with snakes. So, yeah. So that dropped on Netflix. That seems as good a segue as any to get into our mandatory Netflix segment of the show. So, we've done 2 sport discussions of The Witcher at this point. 1 a spoiler-free discussion, 1 a spoiler-filled discussion. Nick has been on 0 of those. Nick, what do you think of The Witcher?
I think it's great to see all those characters on screen and see some of the short stories being played out. It's a good base to develop on, but I think overall it was very inelegant as an adaptation, and some of the changes they made I don't necessarily agree with, and I think at points a lot of the short stories they missed the actual, I guess, the essence of what the short story was about. The timeline jumping was really jarring. Like, even as a well-versed in the Witcher books and games, it was jarring to kind of watch along. Like, I was watching with Stacey and she had no fucking idea what was going on. So that was kind of ham-hearted how they
See,
did that. And
I thought that was a fun sort of reveal that, this isn't all taking... Spoilers, I guess. This isn't all taking place at the same time.
It wasn't a reveal because in the very first episode, they referenced characters with the same name and at different points in time. And
I'm sure as someone who's read the books and played the game, you would notice that. But as someone who is being introduced to that the first time, I didn't notice any of that.
I feel like if you're paying attention to the show, you'd
In my opinion, the reveal is in episode 4 for people who aren't super picking up on the smaller details. We've discussed this, right? So you can go listen to me, Ash and Kieran discuss it in the spoiler thing. Kieran was talking about how like he's like, oh, it's like very obvious if you notice this thing in episode 2, like this character's, they mentioned Foltest and Foltest Jr. and all this blah 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 stuff. And I agree. I'm like, yeah, if you are picking up on that, but if you're not picking up on that sort of stuff, which are small details that most people, like, their brain aren't going to automatically click. The reveal comes in episode 4, and you're like, oh, the whole show is taking place in different timelines. And I feel like it's very obvious in episode 4 for obvious reasons, without going into spoilers.
Yeah, and some of the production quality I found, I get that it didn't have like a massive budget, but I got a lot of feeling like it was on the level of quality of like a Hercules or a Xena, and especially in some episodes. And Merlin, I haven't seen Merlin, so I don't know that. But yeah, it's very low quality in a lot of the points, especially the CGI on the dragon as well. That was really bad.
I feel like that was more design.
And that wasn't even a fucking dragon, because in the Witcher lore, they very specifically have a distinction between different species of like dragon type things, and yeah, they fucked that up. But yeah,
or did they?
I'm keen to see where they take it, but I wasn't as blown away as I hoped I would have been with it.
Are you looking forward to season 2 though?
Oh yeah, I'll definitely go see it. Like Geralt, Henry Cavill as Geralt, and I forget the actress's name for Yennefer. They were both fantastic.
And Charlotte?
And Shaltora? Still don't know.
Sure.
But yes. Dylan, your thoughts quickly? 3 words.
Really enjoyed it.
Give lots a coin. There we go.
Toss a coin.
Toss a coin or more to your Witcher. Dylan, you watched the first season of Messiah that dropped recently. What did you think of Messiah, and what is Messiah? Is it a Jesus documentary?
Messiah, I'll have a review out, explosionetwork.com. As of recording, I haven't locked in my score, so I can't tell you my score. I'm thinking around like a 7-ish or something like that, though. I feel like this show is just going to upset a lot of people who are super religious, and that's going to be interesting to watch when that happens. So this drops on January 1st. Obviously, we got early access thanks to Netflix. It's hard to explain. I've opened up here so I could read the official synopsis so I could help. It says, when a CIA officer investigates a man attracting international attention and followers through acts of public disruption, she embarks on a global high-stakes mission to uncover whether he is a divine entity or a deceptive con artist. So the man is Messiah, or how I think, yeah, who he appears out of nowhere, and he basically starts saying that, he speaks to God and blah, 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 blah. He's going to lead the people to safety because the town's being attacked at the time, and he picks up a gang of followers. Gang's probably not the right word. Group of followers. Now, Michelle Monaghan plays the CIA agent, and her over in America starts seeing this happening or starts hearing word of this. So automatically she's like, oh, fuck, not another ISIS or, something along those lines. She pretty much says that in the show. Like, we got to keep our eye on this guy because he's gathering a bunch of followers and he's taking them into the desert. What the hell's he doing? Now, without going too heavy into spoilers, I'll say that a bunch of stuff happens in the first episode, and by the time we get to like the second episode, he's made his way to America, and the show moves to America, and that's where a lot of it ends up taking place. Even though it flicks back and forth between several locations, a majority of it takes place in Texas. And the show, in my opinion, and this is why I've had trouble writing my review, because I am not religious, right? So I do not believe in God. I don't believe in any sort of God. And it's a show about a bunch of people who believe in different versions of God. And in my opinion, though, the show isn't making fun of religion, or I don't feel like the show's either pro or negative religion. It's simply being like, okay, what would happen today if a dude rocked up, started doing stuff that people are deeming miracles in a world where everyone has access to phones and cameras and can upload that to the internet and you can pick up attention very quickly. And the show presents this story, and then you as a viewer, very much like a lot of the characters in the show, are like, is he a con artist? Is he the true messiah? And that's like a lot of the swings and balance of the show. And obviously Michelle Monaghan's character, CIA agent, is very much like, he's bunch of bullshit. Like, what's his big plan? He's probably a terrorist, right? That's pretty much her angle. And she has some other stories as a character which are interesting, which I won't spoil. And then you've got some other people like, I can't remember the character's name, but it's this Texas preacher who's kind of down on his faith. And obviously he comes from a Christian background. Could be Catholic, I don't really know. But one of the major ones, I guess. But I think it's Christian. I think they say it's like Christian. And he's having like problems with his faith, and he's some problems with his family and whatever else. And it's like, what happens when someone like that sees a person like this? Does he start believing in him? What happens then? What happens when more people in America start seeing this figure coming through? Like, what do people start believing? And what happens then? I thought it was going to be a one and done season. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it does have a cliffhanger, which I find quite interesting. I'm not a big fan of the way it ends, but I would watch the second season. It's just a very weird show because it's a mix between like the American and like a really silly Christian, well, not even Christian, but just like a religious weird thing crossed with like the American or something like that. And it's just really odd, but somehow the acting's quite good. And it's shot well, and the characters are interesting for the most part. So I binged it. I watched 9 of the 10 episodes in one day without too much effort. I know I had to review it, but I still wasn't like, oh, what a drag. I was generally along for the ride. So I'm honestly, out of anything I've watched recently, TV show or movie, this is like one of those things where I've watched ahead of time, and I'm just like, I thought it was okay. And if people come out and they're like, this is the worst show ever, I'll be like, okay, but I'm really interested to see what people's general reaction is to this show, because I feel like it's just quite odd. Yeah.
Nick, you've watched part of a documentary series that I'm scared to watch. Don't Fuck with Cats.
Oh, no, I watched the whole thing.
You watched the whole thing?
It's only 3 episodes.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
So it's only 3 episodes.
Yeah.
What is Don't Fuck with Cats, and why is some people on the internet upset about it?
It's a true crime documentary, kind of like in the same vein. It's smaller in scope, kind of like that. What was that one with the woman and the bomb necklace or whatever?
Evil Genius.
3 episodes, a bit. Yeah, so there's a group of people online. Basically, the premise is like, there's rules on the internet. Like, one of the major ones is don't fuck with cats, because this video appears of this guy torturing and killing cats. So these group of people get on Facebook and
like civil justice.
Yeah, kind of like they create a group and they start kind of like dissecting the videos and doing research and trying to pinpoint where this guy is. They end up not finding out where he is, and it escalates, and then basically they start getting threatened and they go to the police and stuff like that, and they're not believing him, and he ends up murdering somebody, and then it's about from them trying to capture him as well. Like, there was just the signs of him becoming a sociopath and turning into a murderer based on all these videos and stuff. And I guess there's also kind of a critique that saying, would he have gone as far as he did if he didn't have I guess the attention of all these people kind of seeking him out and egging him on in a way, I guess. I mean, it's pretty interesting. The guy was a fucking weirdo, but yeah, I recommend giving it a go if you're into those small Netflix murder documentary things.
How graphic is it? I think is probably the thing that is concerning some people.
It shows clips of the videos, but it cuts away before anything really happens. But you still kind of get the impact of you knowing what's happening, because it'll start to show some of the video, then it'll cut away to the people that they're interviewing, but it's them watching the video, so you can still hear what's going on as well. So it's...
Well, for example, what's he do to the cats?
There's only 2 videos in there. One of them, he gets 2 kittens, put them in, like, you know, those vacuum bags you can store laundry in. Puts 2 kittens in one of them, and another one he feeds a kitten to a python.
Okay.
And then there's the video that he uploaded of the actual murder he did to a Chinese expat in Canada or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you think you can handle that, check out Don't Fuck With Cats. I've watched the first 5 episodes of a series called Soundtrack that's currently on Netflix. It is okay. It's kind of like a background thing that I've been kind of watching. It's very soapy, I guess. It's kind of like a drama. I like a lot of the characters. It is told like The Witcher, kind of out of sequence. The timeline kind of jumps all over the place, but they kind of set that up in the first episode. The thing kind of sets it apart is people will break into song at certain points. That's why the show's called Soundtrack, because it's the soundtrack of their lives. But I think I'm fine with the option which they've gone with, but some people are a bit upset is they've chosen not to have the characters sing the songs, but to have the actual original music and then lip sync to it.
Lip sync.
Lip sync. Yeah, lip sync. So like in the first episode, they have a character sing and dance to Sia's Chandelier. No, Elastic Heart. That's what it was. And it's them lip syncing to that. So if you can accept that, I mean, it's a perfectly fine show. I think a lot of the characters are very strong and interesting. They start the show on like a big reveal kind of, or they end the first episode on kind of a big reveal that will have ramifications for the rest of the season. But yeah, it's enjoyable enough to keep watching, so I might finish it at some point in the new year. But that Soundtrack, and then both me and Dylan have watched a few comedy specials. We've both watched Ronnie Chang, Asian Comedian Destroys America. Dylan, what'd you think of that?
I loved it. It was so funny. I laughed from head to start, or start to finish, how you want to put it. Very, very good. His take on current events. It was like current event comedy, I guess, is the category I guess you'd put it under. Like,
yeah, it's topical.
Most of the jokes were topical stuff. Yeah, like not. And yeah, it was quite funny. It's only like an hour as well, which is kind of my preferred length, I guess, for comedy specials. Most of the time is around an hour 10, you know, like not pushing it to 90 minutes, because then I feel like there's a lot of excess material. But it was like quick. I laughed the entire time. Really great. Pity he left Australia. Now he gets to claim to be American, I guess, again. But
well, technically he's Malaysian, so
we lost him.
I mean,
I know, but we had him for a short time.
we did. Interesting to read his. He had an interview explaining why he kind of left, and it's because the content here in Australia is made.
Yeah, makes sense.
Made by old people, for old people is pretty much.
Yeah.
Even though you see a lot of younger.
Yeah, I saw him tweet that. Yeah, he said it was the same. Like, he's like, Australia. Or, you know, like, why'd you move to America and not like stay in Australia or move back home or, you know, like anywhere else kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like, why America? And he was like, yeah, because everywhere else but America, the content's made by old people for old people. So,
yeah,
not fun.
But yeah, I remember seeing Ronnie Chang doing stand up here in Brisbane back in 2015. Thought he was brilliant then. He's brilliant in this. Some of the material is the same from shows I've seen, but it's still brilliant. I think he's fantastic. Again,
I will say I just remembered something. He has an ISIS joke that went over so well with the crowd, and then his response, I'm just like, what's making me laugh? Because even I was sitting there watching, and he did the ISIS joke, and I was like, ooh, like, but okay.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want more, he's on the Daily Show. You can look up clips in different places. He's got these series, Ronnie Chang International Student. I think it's still on Netflix. If not, I think it's on Stan, possibly. And then I think he's got a couple other comedy specials you have to buy through his website. But yes, Ronnie Chang, great dude. If you're listening, probably not. Dylan, you watched Bill Burr. I'm sorry you feel that way. Is this because you watched The Mandalorian and you're like, I need more Bill Burr?
No, after I finished that one, it came up and suggested itself, so I just clicked play.
Okay.
So,
what do you think of that?
I mean, good job, Netflix. Good job, Netflix, I guess. I mean, I guess it like cycles through because all the other stuff I've watched. So it's like, you haven't watched this one. But, I mean, I haven't watched all the comedy specials, but it was like, here, have this one. And I was like, okay, well, Bill Burr, sure. It's hit or miss. I've seen some Bill Burr comedy stuff before. I know he's like what they would call a envelope pusher comedian, which means that, and this is from a couple of years ago, but even then I'm just like, some jokes just don't work for me because of the, how do I say it about, let me put it this way. He makes several, like there's a few like, oh, transsexuals, this joke, like sort of thing, you know, like there's that sort of material, which in my opinion, I don't like. I don't particularly find them funny because it's like very much punching down to me. But then he does other stuff and that's quite funny, but it's just a very mixed bag on topic wise. I know that's the kind of comedian he is, which means whenever I watch one of his comedy specials, it's always going to be a mixed bag for me, personally, just because of my views on things, I guess. But yeah, so it's like, this is very funny. That's punching down in my opinion. So, you know, whatever. But definitely wasn't laugh out loud the full time for me. I'd give it like a 6 because of the mixed bag. And it also goes for like 90 minutes, which means I could cut all the jokes I don't like and have a very good like 1 hour good run of jokes.
Okay. And then I watched the weird comedy special John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch, which is a variety show, I guess, hour or 70 minutes according to Trakt, of, I guess, sketches and that kind of songs and these different things. It's clearly inspired by things like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or whatever it's called, or like a Sesame Street thing where they've got a host and they've got a bunch of kids who come in and they like have different sketches and bits, and they do a segment where they talk about doing a paper mache volcano. They have a bunch of interstitials where they talk about the biggest fears through the entire thing. I think the special even opens with one of the kids explaining that he doesn't want to die of drowning and goes for a very long time about not wanting to drown. But yeah, I think this is great. That not everything is gold, but a lot of the songs are really catchy and interesting. And then it ends on a high note. I don't know if have you guys seen much of this on Twitter and that kind of stuff? Nope. Then I don't want to spoil the ending. But someone shows up and does a fantastic job. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. I think it's a fun hour of television. So yes, that's everything in our watch history. Now we're going to jump into our Trakt, not sponsored, year in review. Of course, if you want to keep track of what you're going to be watching in 2020, you should go over to Trakt.tv and log every single piece of content that you watch as you're watching it throughout the year. If you're a premium member, no, VIP, that's what it's called.
VIP, yeah.
VIP, they give you a full breakdown of everything at the end of the year, so you've got a bunch of cool stats and that kind of thing. Again, not sponsored. Should be, but not.
Also, don't be a loser who uses Letterboxd.
Feel like you're calling out somebody.
Everyone that uses Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Which is everyone. We're definitely on the indie side choosing Trakt.
All right, so let's start at the top. Nick, how many players and how many hours have you put into content this year?
761 plays and 570 hours.
Dylan?
Weak sauce compared to you.
I was about to say, can I pause for a sec and say that last year, I'm pretty sure Ash was leading out in front of me and Nick with quite a lot of hours when it came to content. And I expect the same for this year.
Well, you guys earlier this year were questioning why I was host of the show, and now we know why. All right, so Dylan, what are your numbers?
Need to watch some better shit. My total amount of players was 638 for a total of 643 hours.
I logged in 1,365 plays for 1,046 hours.
Yeah, but if you take away that weeb shit and fucking The Flash and all those shows, you get down to a respectable number.
We'll get down to different things. What was your first play of 2019, Nick?
The movie Vice on the 1st of January at midday.
Dylan, what was yours?
Sweet Country on January 1st at 12:25.
Mine also was Sweet Country on the 1st of January at 11:30 a.m. If you want to know why, you should go check out episode 24 of What Do You Want to Watch, in which we talked about it as the movie that we ended up watching.
I will say, technically, I watched Bird Box and it finished at like 12-something a.m., but I started it before.
Yeah, it's when you start, not when it finishes.
Yeah.
I know something. Yeah, okay. Okay. Nick, do you want to break down your TV show stats?
Yeah, I watched 383 hours, which is 31.9 per month, 383 per week. That doesn't seem right. 1.1 per day.
No,
and then 657 episodes, which is 54.8 per month or 1.8 per day.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
No.
No, Bill,
yeah.
Dylan, do you want to give yours? Your TV's hours?
I have 354 hours TV watched, 29.5 a month, 353.7 a week, for a total of 1 a day. Episode plays were 485, 40.4 a month, 485 per week, for a total of 1.3 a day. I think their per week total is.
I think they're.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
Mine's the exact same as the plays and the hours, so I think that's a bit of a mess up there.
Yeah. Not calling you out, Trakt. Mistakes happen. My total hours watched is 750, which equates to about 2.1 per day. 2.1 hours per day. Total episodes watched 1,203, which is about 3.3 episodes per day. So,
where's that accent coming from?
Yeah, I was going to say, you weren't really American. What? No, 38 pounds.
Well, when I'm talking about time, that's when it kicks in.
Before we go into the most watch, are you doing? Because I just want to point out, in case you miss it, the episode plays per month. You know the graph. It is fucking ridiculous how high my January one was, where we had 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you can. Do you see that in the
Holy
webcam for
shit.
people playing at home? My January one is fucking nuts higher than the rest of the year.
You'll probably find, if you want to look at it for yourselves, you'll probably find it in our Twitters very soon.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, I just had the idea. I'm like, I'll post it. I'll make an article tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone, if
Wonder what
everyone's
shows you're watching in that
sends me
month.
anything was on. We had 2 weeks holidays. It's probably literally the time I watched the most and played the most. Everything is going to happen again this year. You watch. Anyway, no, I'll put up an article. I'll just decide now. If everyone sends me this stuff, I'll just copy paste some pictures in so you can see our stuff on the website. ExplosionNetwork.com. Find our stuff. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Nick, what are your top 5 played shows?
I'll go from lowest to highest. So 5 is Curb Your Enthusiasm. 4 is The Block. 3 is Good Mythical Morning. 2 is Archer. And 1 is The Office.
Interesting. Dylan, what's yours? Top 5.
Why do we do 5? There's only 10 shows listed here. Jesus.
All right. Well, Nick, what were your other 5? Bottom 5.
Okay. 10
You go,
was
Nick.
Barry. 9 was Mr. In Between. 8 was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. 7 is Between Two Ferns. And then 6 was Mindhunter.
Jeez. Between Two Firms, how did that happen?
You caught up this year.
Yeah, I binged most of it before.
But it's based on based on hours. They're like 5
No,
minutes
is it
each.
based on plays?
Yeah, it's based on plays.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. My number 10 was Narcos. Number 9 was Insta Famous. Number 8, Jessica Jones. Number 7, Chef Show. Number 6, Dear White People. Number 5, Queer Eye. Number 4, The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Number 3, Dark. Number 2, Glow. And number 1, The Good Place.
Good. That's a good list.
Good list.
Oh, jeez. My number 10, have you been paying attention? Number 9 is Patriot Act. Number 8, The Rising of the Shield Hero. Number 7, Evangelion. Number 6, The Orville. Number 5, Star Trek Discovery. Number 4, The Good Place. Number 3, My Hero Academia. Number 2, Veronica Mars. And number 1, Gotham. 100 episodes. 100 players.
I know why you wanted to skip. You wanted to skip the bottom 5 to get less weep shit on your list.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Brooklyn Nine-Nine's not up there with fucking 3,000 replays
Yeah,
of
I
each
feel
episode.
like I just didn't log it every single time. That might have been the problem. So,
Oh, geez, you could have got your hours up to 1,300 if you'd done it.
Inaccurate stats.
you know, I'm
I
just,
won't have this.
okay.
Cooking the books.
What are your top 5 genres, excluding drama and comedy? Because those are the 2 most common that get knocked in every single genre.
Okay. I have from top down science fiction, fantasy, crime, action, and mystery.
Well, I'm excluding comedy and drama.
Yep.
Yeah. So science fiction, fantasy, documentary, adventure, action.
Cool. Mine are fantasy, science fiction, adventure, action, and documentary. Skip that one. So let's jump into movies. Nick, what are your movie numbers?
187 hours, which is 15.6 per month and 0.5 per day, and then 104 movie plays, 8.7 per month and 0.3 per day.
Okay, that's good. Dylan?
Mine, 289 hours, 24.1 a month, 0.8 per day, 153 total plays, 12.8 per month, 0.4 per day.
See, mine is 296 hours watched, which is 24.7 a month, 0.8 per day, and 162 movie plays for 13.5 a month or 0.4 a day. So, you know, close to the pack. That's where the difference is. The TV shows. The movies is equal.
The bullshit TV shows while you're fucking just sitting home.
Well, I'm playing
watching
Team
Gotham
Fight
bullshit
Tactics.
in the
Yeah.
background. Yeah.
That's where it is. All right, Nick, what are your top 10 most watched movies of the year?
Quite a lot of these has been for basically my choices for what we end up watching.
What?
Yeah, you picked all the long
10
ones.
was Doctor Sleep. 9 was House That Jack Built. 8 was Les Mis. 7 was Dragged Across Concrete. 6 was There Will Be Blood. 5 was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 4 was It Chapter 2. 3 was Midsummer Director's Cut. 2 was Endgame. And number 1 was The Irishman.
Okay.
And those were all just one play each. So
Yeah, I want to know how they decide.
I
length.
think it's I think with the movies it's hours.
That would make sense.
Because
Yeah, so
last
if you-
year was Death of Stalin because I watched that twice. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually probably makes sense. So mine, number 10, Les Miserables. Number 9, Dragged Across Concrete. Number 8, There Will Be Blood. Number 7, It Chapter 2. Number 6, Avengers Endgame. Number 5, The Irishman. Number 4, Long Shot. Number 3, John Wick 3. Number 2, The Rise of Skywalker. Number 1, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
and obviously those have been played multiple times.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I've watched twice. Rise Against Skywalker, I've watched twice. John Wick 3, I've watched 3 times, I think. Long Shot, or 2 or 3 times. Long Shot, I've watched twice. Yeah, so it's definitely hours total. Because 2 plays of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is 5.5 hours. So, yeah.
My top 10, number 10, Ford vs. Ferrari, or Ford v Ferrari. Number 9, The House of Jack Built. 8, Les Mis. 7, Dragged Across Concrete. 6, There Will Be Blood. 5, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 4, Always Be My Maybe. 3, Irishman. 2, Spider-Man Far From Home. And number 1, Avengers Endgame.
How many plays is that?
So I reckon everything above Hollywood was more than once.
No, Irishman was once. The other 3 were twice. So yeah,
Yeah, so Avengers Endgame, did you watch it twice?
I watched it twice.
Yeah, so that's like 6 hours, right?
6 hours, 2 minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right, what were your top 5 genres, not including comedy and drama? Nick.
But what if comedy and drama aren't my top?
Aren't they? Okay.
No.
Still-
okay,
They're my top
Still
2.
excluding.
So,
okay, well, it goes drama, thriller, comedy, horror, science fiction, action, crime, and history.
Okay. Interesting. Dylan, what is yours?
I'll skip them. They're my top two. But adventure, thriller, action, science fiction, horror.
Cool. And mine are adventure, action, science fiction, thriller, and documentary. Cool. So, who are your top 5 most watched actors of the year? Nick.
Okay. With 5 plays, 6 is Justin Theroux, Steve Carell. They're both... No. Justin Theroux is 6, Steve Carell in 5, Jon Favreau in 5, Bobby Cannavale in 5, and Chris Evans in 5. And there's more in 5, but yeah.
Dylan?
What are we doing? Top 6.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Top
I
5.
feel we're going to have very similar lists for some reason.
Number 5, James Earl Jones. Number 4, Mark Hamill. Number 3, Frank Oz. Number 2, Samuel L. Jackson. Number 1, Anthony Daniels.
Yes.
Rewatch all of Star Wars in 1 year, and you'll probably get a lot of Anthony Daniels movies.
Yeah. Mine is number 5, Stan Lee. Number 4, Jon Favreau. Number 3, Frank Oz. Number 2, Samuel L. Jackson. And number 1, Anthony Daniels.
Why Frank Oz?
Star
6
Wars?
movies I've got.
All the Star Wars, plus he
Is
was
he?
in Knives Out, apparently.
Who is he in Star Wars?
Yoda?
Yoda.
I didn't know he played that.
Frank Oz is Yoda.
Yeah. And I guess
Yeah.
he voiced one line in each thing, so he gets a credit and everything.
Yeah, he still gets credited, even if he's only one line, yeah.
Yeah. Top 5 actresses, Nick.
Okay, I'll do it the other way. So 5 is Laura Dern, 4 was Amy Sedaris, 3 was Naomi Watts, 2 is Charlize Theron, and 1 was ScarJo.
Cool.
Brie Larson, number 5. Number 4, Gwendolyn Christie. Number 3, Tessa Thompson. Number 2, Christian Bell. And number 1, Carrie Fisher.
Okay. My number 5 is Gwyneth Paltrow. Number 4, Haley Steinfeld. Number 3, Katie Lotz. Number 2, Scarlett Johansson. And number 1, Kobe Smulders. Okay. And then top 5 directors.
Number 5 is Kari Skogland. Don't know who that is. Ken Whittingham, 2 shows. 3, Taika Waititi with 2 shows. Number 2 is Jon Favreau with 1 movie and 2 shows. And 1 is Fred Toy with 3 shows.
Did you know who any of those people were?
I know who Jon Favreau and
Taika
Taika Waititi is.
I was going to say some of those. I think it's just all random.
Yeah,
things.
they're all just like journeyman directors.
Think they've
One
added
episode
that
of this,
since
one
last year.
episode of that.
So my number 5 is Sarah Adina Smith, who directed some stuff, including like Looking for Alaska. Number 4 is Michael Lenman, who did. I'm not gonna. I think it was one of the Marvel shows. Fred Toy, I don't remember. Actually, Watchmen.
He did.
Watchmen.
And American Gods and The Boys. One
There you
episode
go.
of each.
That would add up. That would be why he's third then, because I finished American Gods. Number 2, George Lucas. Obviously, all Star Wars movies. But number 1, because I rewatched all these this year as well, Kevin Smith, because I did radio movies.
Which you find at ExplosionNetwork.com. My number 5 is Anya Adams, who looks like she's a sitcom director. Claire Scannion at number 4, who's also a sitcom director. Number 3, Gregory Smith, who's done a bunch of Arrowverse CW stuff. Carol Banker at number 2 for a variety of different hour-long action shows. And number 1, J.J. Abrams.
Wow.
Okay.
One thing that I wish the year in review had was writers as well.
Yeah.
And maybe split the TV and movies.
Directors. Yeah, because most of the time people aren't going to recognize the for-hire sitcom directors.
Oh, because they don't deserve recognition.
No,
I
they
get
do,
it.
but they should be
You
in a
elitist.
specific category. Don't put them up against J.J. Abrams.
Why? Because they'll come out on top.
Yeah. J.J. can't take that against his ego. Okay. And what was the last thing you watched in 2019, Nick? Definitely the last thing. If you go check afterwards.
Yeah, sure. Mr. Robot, season 1, episode 3.
Dylan?
Bill Burr, I'm sorry you feel this way. That's definitely not going to change.
I'm sorry you feel that way, Dylan.
But 24 hours.
Spoilers. And my last play so far is Always Be My Maybe, which was rewatched in contention for my top 10. Didn't quite make it. But let's get into our top 10 movies of 2019. Nick, do you want to kick us off with your list that you definitely prepared well in advance? As thought about.
Am I doing the whole list?
Nope, just number 10, please.
Number 10? Number 10 is the report with Adam Driver based on the report into the enhanced interrogation techniques by the CIA after 9/11. Quite a good historical drama. Pretty eye-opening in what happened. Very well acted and directed. Definitely give it a watch.
Cool. Dylan, what's your number 10?
I'm just going to be, as I'm going, because it's very easy to do for movies, I'm just going to read the IMDb synopsises, so in case it helps people know what it is, because it's easy. So my number 10 is Under the Silver Lake. Sam, a disenchanted young man, finds a mysterious woman swimming in his apartment's pool one night. The next morning, she disappears. Sam sets off across LA to find her, and along the way uncovers a conspiracy far more bizarre. Obviously, I talked about this, like a month ago, and I said I was not sure if I really liked it or if it was just really weird and whatever else. When I sat down to do my short list, I wrote it down, and then I couldn't help but keep thinking about it. And I honestly feel like it's going to be one of those movies that years from now, people are going to be looking back on a lot higher than when it came out now. Like, I feel like it's going to pick up a cult audience over years, will be a lot kinder to it. But Andrew Garfield's great in it, and so is everyone else, but especially Andrew Garfield. It's a fucking wacky and weird role. And I kind of want to rewatch it because I still don't know if I fully understand it, but that's kind of the fun of it. It sticks out from the year, though. It definitely sticks out to me, so yeah.
My number 10 is Jojo Rabbit, the coming-of-age movie set in Nazi Germany, where a young boy has Adolf Hitler as imaginary friends. I've had a couple weeks to dwell on it. I really enjoyed it. I think I feel like a lot of the comedy comes from the absurdity of the situation of a kid being so into Nazism in a film being released in 2019 is just so crazy that Nazism was a thing. For a small child to be so invested in the Nazi party is we'd like to believe it's ludicrous. Just the way the satire in this is very good, but then it's also got a lot of heart as well with Scarlett Johansson and I forget the young actress's name, but she's the young Jewish girl who's in the film. She's great as well, and young Geordie, I think his name is, his little friend who throws an axe into another kid's leg. He's great. He pops up every now and then, but every time he's just adorable in this film. So yeah, Jojo Rabbit, number 10. Nick, what is your number 9?
I'm going to steal Dylan's idea and I'm just going to read the synopsis as well. Number 9 is They Shall Not Grow Old by the documentary by Peter Jackson. A documentary about World War One with never before seen footage to commemorate the centennial of the end of the war. Having a strong interest in the First World War myself, it was pretty eye-opening and very interesting to see all that brought to life and just the amount of CGI work gone into it to restore this footage, colorize it, and all the technical advances and stuff that come with it is quite good. It's not so much as a historical events documentary, but more to capture the feeling of what it was like during the war. So, yeah.
I'm glad you have this because this is my official number 11. I kept switching places between this and Under the Lake because I couldn't decide which one I liked more, and I kept thinking about them and switching them, and eventually this got knocked off to 11 simply because I was thinking about the other one more, I guess. But yeah, really, really good movie. My number 9 is Long Shot. description. Journalist Fred Fulowski reunites with his childhood crush Charlotte Field, now one of the most influential women in the world, as she prepares to make a run for the presidency. Charlotte highlights Fred as her speechwriter and sparks fly. This stars Seth Rogen as Fred and Charlize Theron as Charlotte. I just think this is the best rom-com movie of the year that's not following your typical standard of a rom-com while also still like hitting the same feel-good aspects of it. The idea of the fact the movie made me believe that those two could fall for one another, and because it does that by making sure to take its time to get them talking, and when it happens, it works for me. Seth Rogen's really good in this movie. Charlize Theron, I think, is absolutely a standout in this movie. She's like really, really good given the genre. I think she puts a lot into the role. And I've watched it a couple times this year, obviously. I loved it both times. I just think it's got a lot of heart and it's very, very funny and very good. Very, very good. Long shot.
All right, well, my number 9 is Knives Out, and I'll continue this trend of reading synopsis. When renowned crime novelist Harlan Thrombey dies just after his 85th birthday, the inquisitive and debonair detective Benoit Blanc arrives at his estate to investigate. From Harlan's dysfunctional family to his devoted staff, Blanc sifts through a web of red herrings and self-serving lies to uncover the truth behind Thrombey's untimely demise. I think this is brilliance. It's unlike... It's obviously the whodunit genre has kind of been relegated to like British television at this point. But this is a really great murder mystery that I was enthralled by the entire way through. Anna de Armas is great as like the actual lead of the film, which was surprising going into it. I think, and the way it was built up was that Daniel Craig was going to be the protagonist of the film, but she's the lead in this. It's really good to see the discussion around this film as well, and people. I think Dylan posted a thread on our Slack about someone completely misinterpreting the message of the film, and then to have actors like Toni Collette, Don Johnson, Michael Shannon, Jamie Lee Curtis, Chris Evans do small roles but memorable roles. Chris Evans doing some of the best work he's done outside of Captain America in years.
It's the only work he's done outside. No, I mean,
he's done other stuff.
Feels like it.
Raising the sails in white sweaters across the world.
Yeah.
And yeah. Great film. Nick, what's your number 8?
Number 8 is Rocket Man, starring Taron Egerton, directed by Dexter Fletcher, and written by Lee Hall. A musical fantasy about the fantastic human story of Elton John's breakthrough years. I really, really adored this movie. Taron Egerton, I think, is an Oscar-worthy performance as Elton John. All the music was fantastic. His singing was great. All the acting was great. I like how it didn't shy away from how damaged as a person he was in growing up, unlike Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, it's just a phenomenal movie. I like they obviously took a bit of liberty in retelling the story. Some of the events weren't like as chronological as they portrayed it, but I like the dramatic spins on a lot of the songs and the inflections and the meanings of them to tie in with the story. I think it's just one of the fantastic movies of the year.
I'm going to cut in here because Rocket Man is also my number 8. Yes, I'm a copycat. Get that joke in before you can, Nick. I think they just... Obviously, we've seen a lot of these musicals involving people's music, and they've been delivered a bunch of different ways. Obviously, like something like Mamma Mia is like a crazy rom-com venture, and then Bohemian Rhapsody is just... They decide to sing their songs at different points through the film. It's like a elongated concert movie with plot. But this feels like an actual musical where the songs impact the story going forward. They add the cool, fantastical elements of being retold through a rehab session. So you can have these crazy sections where a kid is sitting at the bottom of a pool in an astronaut suit and he's singing along to Rocket Man to then have him have a heart attack and be performing on stage somewhere, and then him performing Crocodile Rock for the first time, and like everybody in the audience be floating, all these cool visual elements to the musical, I thought was brilliant. And yeah, Taron Egerton, I feel, is getting not getting enough praise for his performance. I feel like, especially on the 100%. Back of Rami Malek's performance last year, I would have thought there'd be more buzz about his performance, especially given the promos when the movie was coming out that he actually did his full-on singing the entire film, unlike Rami Malek did. But yeah, I suspect he might have a Golden Globe in his pocket in later this week. So yeah, that's my number 8. Dylan, what is your number 8?
My number 8 is The Farewell. A Chinese family discovers their grandmother has only a short while left to live and decide to keep her in the dark, scheduling a wedding together before she dies. I think, so it was written and directed by Lulu Wang, by the way. The plot of the movie becomes stranger than fiction, really. And the fact that it's a true story, and I don't want to spoil the movie because I found out some stuff that's current information after watching the movie that I liked knowing after, but still made the movie. I think it improved the movie for me in a lot of ways because I'm like, just this whole thing is ridiculous and it's
yep,
it's nuts. The way everything the family goes about to do, and I don't mean nuts as in why would you do this, blah blah blah, because like I feel like you can view it that way, which is kind of insensitive to the way different people, different countries and whatever, deal with things. I don't mean that. I just mean like the movie knows it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like I feel like even Lulu as a director knows that it's ridiculous, but it's just it's funny, and the movie is, I would say, like it's not a full on comedy, like but at times I feel like it is trying to be a sort of like dark comedy. You know what I mean? Like
yep.
It's very dramatic. It is a sad movie. It is somber movie. I mean, it's about someone dying, but at the same time, it takes how silly a lot of the whole thing is and turns it into a sort of dark comedy. I also feel like if I was to award one thing like the best ensemble cast, I would give it to this over Avengers in a heartbeat, because I just feel like the way everyone in this family works together, especially Awkwafina and Shuzhen Zhao plays the grandmother, right? Just those two working together was like this perfect. I don't know. They have like the weirdest perfect synergy, but also the way she interacts with her dad and uncle, and like the whole family interacting around the table and everything. Like it's just this. Everyone gets a moment or a funny one-liner or a joke. Like there's one scene where they're sitting around arguing about what's better, like China or America, and it's quite an interesting scene to watch because it's like everything has a plus and a minus, a plus and a minus, plus and a minus, and it's quite interesting to watch the dynamic there. I think. It's also the movie that made me feel like not that I knew who Awkwafina was from her music. I'm not a big fan, but like I knew her music and I was like, it's fine. She has some funny songs. But this is the movie. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. Watch her. She can actually act. Yep. This is that one for me finally. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. There's my only one negative. If you like, because I know when Ash. By the way, I originally gave the score an 8 on Trakt. I've bumped it up to 9 because I think I was given it 8, thinking it was an 8.5, but then he was like, "Oh, it's only an 8," and I'm like, 8.5. I probably should round up, so I went to 9 now on Trakt to fucking make you feel better, right? So, but I'll give it an 8.5. For Ash's sake, because I feel like this movie is going to come up a lot higher on his list, but I'll say now my one negative, which is why it's at 8 and not higher, is there's like a couple bits where it feels like a too. Like as cool as there's one scene where they're all like walking down the street, I'll still just like I found it a bit corny, I guess. Like there's a couple like too elongated scenes that felt a bit corny to me, and that's my one like criticism, I guess. Also, that's the
whatever. Yeah,
it's so fun. That's dark comedy, surely. Like the fact that you're making the audience laugh at the grandma do something, even though it's like, no, everyone's lying about the fact that she's dying. Yeah, it's quite interesting. And the whole wedding scene is very dark comedy, I feel.
So good.
But that's my number 8.
Nick, what is your number 7?
John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. John Wick is on the run after killing a member of the International Assassins Guild, and with a $14 million price tag on his head, he is the target of hitmen and women everywhere. I think this is the second best of the series for me after, I guess, the second one wasn't as high a point for me. I think it's great. It just goes to show why John Wick, the franchise, is at the height of action genre currently, and the action scenes were great. The acting was great. It's fun to be back in that world, getting more of the nitty gritty of kind of how the world operates and what goes on, and just him constantly on the run from all the assassins coming after him. Fantastic fight scenes, especially when they're in that knife museum or whatever. That's kind of brutal and difficult to watch, but I think it's a fantastic movie, and yeah.
Cool. Dylan, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Ad Astra. Astronaut Roy McBride undertakes a mission across an unforgiven solar system to uncover the truth about his missing father and his doomed expedition that now, 30 years later, threatens the universe. I think this is a very beautiful film, shot beautifully, but also the story is, I would call, beautiful. It's a very simple story when it boils down. I think a lot of the reason that people don't like it and it didn't score as high is because people wanted Interstellar, I guess, but the story, by the time it wraps, it's very, I felt like I got it straight away, but I guess it's if you get it or you don't. And I was like, oh, I kind of like how it was basically a very human story and not this massive sci-fi fucking black holes traveling through space holes. I like Interstellar, but this is a very simple story compared to that. I definitely feel like it's also one of Brad Pitt's best performances, in my opinion. And I think he'll win the Oscar for this, in my opinion, given that knowing Oscar people go for more subdued, less loud. I know everyone wants Joker to win, Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix is great. I think he's good in that movie. It's the only thing I like from that movie, but it's a very loud, bombacious performance. And I feel like the Oscar people more these very interpersonal character pieces, which is what I would call Ad Astra, because the reason that Brad Pitt's character in this movie is very timid is a story reason. It's a character reason, and I like the way it all works. But yeah, James Gray's, I think, written this very interesting story that tackles it's hard to talk about spoilers, obviously, but tackles a thing that I feel like a lot of people could just understand. I feel you can get it. You can be like, okay, I understand, or you don't. Donald Sutherland, by the way, is very good in this. And I also enjoyed seeing Ruth Negga in this, because I haven't seen her in anything outside Preacher. And when she signed up, I was like, oh, go for Preachers in the
You forget Warcraft.
Oh, sorry, I haven't watched that.
That massive franchise,
for reasons. Yeah, massive franchise. So that's my number 7.
My number 7 is Booksmart. On the eve of their high school graduation, 2 academic superstars and best friends realize they should have worked less and played more. Determined not to fall short of their peers, the girls try to cram 4 years of fun into one night. Easily the best comedy of the year. Straight up comedy. I think Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever have an incredible chemistry on screen. They play incredible best friends. Just the hijinks they get through the entire night. There's a fantastic ensemble cast. Everybody is great bit players. People like Jessica Williams, Jason Sudeikis, Lisa Kudrow, Will Forte, and then the other kids. Billy Lord shows up and is this crazy wacky character that is.
I was going to say, let's be real. Billy Lord's the best person in the movie.
She is fantastic through this entire film. And then they have Eduardo Franco playing pretty much the same character. It seems I've seen him in every other film he's in as a guy trying to get laid. But yeah. Great young cast. I feel like this is I think I wrote in my review something along the lines of this is going to be a milestone moment for a lot of these people in their careers. This is going to be the breakout moment, especially for Olivia Wilde, who's directed for the first time. Incredible film. Everyone should check it out.
Was on Obama's top 10 or whatever.
Obama's list of top films. Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah. Great
There's
list.
some interesting stuff in there, but I thought Booksmart was also interesting.
Yeah, I appreciated. I tweeted out that I would have loved to have seen a Gogglebox like show where I could watch Obama watching Watchmen. Just
Yeah.
as you know, there's that blue penis that's flopping around. Nick, what is your number 6 film of the year?
Doctor Sleep, directed by Mike Flanagan, starring Ewan McGregor and a bunch of other people, Rebecca Ferguson as well. Years following the events of The Shining, a now adult Dan Torrance must protect a young girl with similar powers from a cult known as the True Knot, who prey on children with powers to remain immortal. I think of a year full of Stephen King adaptations, this stands head and shoulders above all the rest. Ewan McGregor, fantastic as an adult Dan Torrance. He's struggling alcoholic and substance abuser, struggling to deal with the events of The Shining. Rebecca Ferguson, I think, is the standout role in this one as Rose the Hat. The enemy group of the True Knot are all fantastic and creepy and weird and unsettling. It would have been a difficult challenge to be a sequel both to the book and the movie, but Mike Flanagan, who has a history of adapting Stephen King and doing his own horror in his own right, is just the master crafter. Is that the word? No.
Sure.
That doesn't sound right. Yeah, that'll do. To tackle this, and I think he did a fantastic job with it.
This is also my number 6, so there you go. We can tie on this one. I very much enjoyed this as well. I love the way it's just shot and told, and it's just like a wacky and weird movie that I feel like a lot of people, like Ash, should watch it because it's not actually a horror movie, so he should just fucking get over the fact and watch it, because if anything, it's a thriller / supernatural movie, and it's in a lot of ways. I kept saying it's more a superhero movie than anything else. So it's got a lot of supernatural powers, especially way more than the original movie, obviously. So because that skipped on a lot of them compared to the book. Rebecca Ferguson, I love in general. Like pretty much anything she's in, I like her. She's like one of my favorite actresses at the moment, but she's definitely a standout in this. She's definitely the top. And there is a scene in this movie that I had on my short list to put in for top 5 memorable movie moments of the year, which is a scene where her and the Knot do a terrible thing to a kid, but it was still one of the most memorable things I've probably watched in movies all year all of 2019. And yeah, Ewan McGregor gives a fantastic performance. It's just weird. Also, the little girl, what's her name? Kylie Curran. Yeah, she's great. And then also Cliff Curtis is in this. Old mate. Love seeing him pop up and things. Always usually plays bit players. I like the fact he got to play a bigger character in this supporting role. Ewan McGregor's only friend in the movie, really, apart from the little girl, and I enjoyed seeing him along with it. But yeah, everything else that Nick said I would also agree with. And Mike Flanagan is probably just one of my favorite directors at the moment. Like if they're like, oh, Mike Flanagan's directing this, I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. You know, like that's how much faith I have at the moment with him.
My number 6 is Free Solo, the Academy Award-winning documentary that follows Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold's attempts to become the first person to ever free solo climb El Capitan, which means climb El Capitan, a massive rock structure in Yosemite, America, without any ropes. So it's a very long process through him getting to the point where he thinks he can potentially do. Well, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that he does succeed in the action because he's showed up different places since the movie's come out. So that's a pretty good telling that, he survives. But I feel like it would have been interesting to see this movie not knowing that. I think the tension would have been like,
thanks, Ash.
Initially... He showed up at the Academy Awards. He lived.
Yeah, it was a good joke,
yeah,
though.
But it would have been interesting to have seen it like Sundance or wherever it first screened and not know just the tension of, is this guy's last moments? But I feel like he's an interesting character, and it's an interesting character study into a person who does this risk-taking thing for effectively a living. So yeah, amazing documentary. It's on Disney Plus. Everyone should check it out, even though it was probably better on the big screen. But yeah, check it out in 4K or whatever. It's as good a quality as you possibly can, because it is one of the most beautiful documentaries you'll see. Nick, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is The King, directed by David Michaud and written by David Michaud and Joel Edgerton. It's based on the Shakespeare plays about Henry V. It's about him as coming to age and then reluctantly becoming King of England, and then his conflict in the 100 Years' War with France. I think it's terrifically acted. Timothée Chalamet is fantastic as Henry V. Joel Edgerton, which I'm a fan of, I think he puts in a good performance as Falstaff. There's lots of political intrigue, and if you're into that kind of thing, I guess Game of Thrones-esque, constantly people playing each other, and I think it's got some of the best depictions of medieval era combat that I've seen in a film yet. So, yeah, it's one of my favourite movies of the year.
Yeah, really great film. Robert Pattinson, great cameo.
Ironically, I think he's the weakest part of the movie.
Well, he's barely in it, so, I mean, that's not too bad, so. Dylan, what is your number 5?
I suspect foul play. My number 5 is Knives Out. This movie is just a great... It's just like, let's just get all these great actors. I'm trying not to speak about it too much because you already talked. But let's get all these great actors, put them all in a movie together, and it's just fun to watch them act. Like, plot aside, just having this many actors I like and think are really talented all in one movie in the same room, just like fucking shit talking one another. I'm like, what a joy it is to watch this. I'll work out. I think also it's just like a standout movie of the year as a really successful original story from writer, director, you know, like it's not based on anything, like it's a genre, sure, but it's not like based on an actual Agatha Christie thing. Original story, written by Rian Johnson, directed by Rian Johnson, get a bunch of people, fucking shoot it, fantastic, a lot of fun to watch. In a lot of ways, just the editing and the way he stylizes the movie, it kind of is like semi-Edgar Wright-ish, but not like as like quick panning and like, you know, around the place, but it still just like has a charisma and like a joy to the way the movie's put together, and it's just a whole bunch of fun, and I love it. It's just got so many quotable lines and things I still just think about, like I want to get an Eat Shit t-shirt, and I just think it's a really, really fun movie, and I can't wait to watch it again, in fact, because I think it'll be super, super fun second time around.
Yeah. My number 5 is Hustlers, directed by Lauren Scafaria. Inspired by the viral New York Magazine article, Hustlers follows a crew of savvy former strip club employees who band together to turn the tables on their Wall Street clients. It's like a modern day Goodfellas, but with strippers and drug use.
Goodfellas said drug use, don't you worry.
Yeah. It is incredible. I really enjoy this film. I think it's everybody in it is stunning, but Jennifer Lopez steals the show as Ramona, and yeah, just the way it plays out from them just being, I guess, strippers, and then, you know, things turn around the time that Wall Street goes to shit, and then they have to figure out ways to survive, and they aren't necessarily legal or ethically correct. But yeah, I think it was an incredible ride when I was in the cinema, and it is cool. It's seeing hot ladies on the screen, but they bring it in every aspect of the performance. Yeah, one of the best films of the year. So Nick, what's your number 4?
We're up to 4?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Midsummer, written directed by Ari Aster. A couple travels to Sweden to visit a rural hometown's fabled Midsummer Festival. What begins as an idyllic retreat quickly devolves into increasingly violent and bizarre competition at the hands of a pagan cult. This was I think my second most anticipated movie of the year. It obviously didn't come out in cinemas, so I didn't see it till quite late.
It did.
No.
Did it though?
But
It did.
I loved it. Ari Aster's increasingly becoming one of my favorite creators. It's a very, very different movie to Hereditary, which I think in its own way is very good. Florence Pugh is that how you say her name?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll tell.
Yeah. She puts in a stellar performance as Danny. It's very confronting in its violence. It's just shot extremely beautifully with the bright colours and the vibrancy and just the eerie feeling of strangeness of coming into this foreign culture and trying to make heads or tail of what they're trying to do and what they stand for and all that is just, I think, is a great movie.
I'll tell you what, I've never wanted to nearly stop watching a movie so fast without actually seeing anything gruesome on the start. The way that movie starts, and like, it's a spoiler shot.
Yeah,
but like
it's
the way
hard
it
to
sets
watch.
the way it sets up her character, I was just like, oh, am I in the right mindset to participate in viewing this movie right now? I'm just like, this is in my top 20. It didn't make my top 10, but I don't think it's as good as Hereditary. It's definitely a lot different than Hereditary, but it's still very good. And yeah, the opening of that movie's hard to watch. And then also the first time someone actually dies, I'm like, am I in the right mindset to watch this movie?
It's very confronting.
Yeah.
Cool. Dylan, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is John Wick 3 Parabellum. I'm a big fan of the John Wick franchise. I'm a big fan of John Wick 3. It's my personal favorite. I think it's the best one of all of them. I would even go as far, in my mind, it's one of the best action movies of the last 10 years. I would put it on like top action movies of the decade. It's just like, this is what I want from action movies. Not fucking a million and one quick cuts and loud noises and CGI and shit. I want to see some dudes like shooting and fighting one another, or, you know, I just want to see the action. I want to be able to tell what's going on. I want some cool characters. I want shit to happen and I can see and understand. And John Wick has just been giving me that in loads over the last 3 films. And I think number 3 is just my favorite because it has my favorite characters and action. I wouldn't say it has my favorite action scene because I actually, in a lot of weird ways, as much as I think the second one's the worst in my opinion, the opening action scene of that one is probably my favorite of the franchise just because of the way they use the car in action fight scenes. And I love the way they shoot the car as well, like a bunch of really cool drifts and shit like that. But my favorite fight in this one is the Halle Berry dogfight. I absolutely love that, just with how brutal it is and how well they use the camera and have her and Keanu do a lot of their stuff themselves. The fact that you could be like, oh, they shot a gun and you see them pick up ammo off the dead bodies. I love the small detail of the fact they're like, yeah, they're running out of fucking ammo. They're picking up more clips and shit. I just love that as such a small detail. But and also just the fact that number 3 dives more into the high table. Yeah, the high table and the what's happening up there. You've got the adjudicator come in. Asia Kate Dillon plays that really interesting character that comes in, and the adjudicator, I'm here to do this, like hands over coins and whatever. Like it gets weird and wacky, but the movie's always been weird and wacky anyway. So yeah,
One thing I appreciate it is it doesn't explain any of it to you. It's up to you to kind of figure out what's going on. There's
each film just gives like slightly more details. It's like, here's a thing. Like, we're not going to fully go to it. Like, wait for John Wick 4. Like, go watch this one, give us money, we'll make another one. That's pretty much how these movies are working now. Like, as long as you keep watching them, I'll keep making them. I'm like, well, I love John Wick 3. Give me the next one. I will watch it. Can't wait. Oh, and also this had some Raid Boys in it, so I'm like a sucker, obviously.
My number 4 is Avengers Endgame. As the year progressed, we learnt endings are tough. Really tough. And I think Avengers Endgame proved to be the best ending to something of this scale this year. I think the 3 hours just whizzes by. I think there's no times where the story lulls or anything. an incredible bunch of awesome fan servicey moments, but I feel like the story of that movie by itself is still very good, and the surprise of it actually playing out the way it played out, knowing barely anything from the marketing of the film was greatly appreciated, and a fitting end to certain people who are not going to be playing those roles anymore. Yeah.
I didn't make my top 10, but I'd like to say that the movie we're all subtly hinting at and shitty on is, of course, The Rise of Skywalker. And as I wrote in my review, The Rise of Skywalker made me like Endgame more for how well it does its wrapping up of a storyline, like the Infinity Saga thing. Like, that movie made me like Endgame more. So, tops off to Star Wars.
Okay.
Did something good.
Made you like another movie more.
Yeah.
It does enhance other movies more. That's true. Number 3. What is your number 3, Nick?
Marriage Story. Noah Baumbach, is that how you say his name? Incisive and compassionate look at marriage breaking up and a family staying together. Stellar performances by Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. Who would have thought she had it in her? It's a deeply emotional story for me personally. It's made me reevaluate my own marriage. It's just
quit directing theatre.
Let
Stacey
follow her dreams.
It's a very realistic look at a relationship. There's it shows the nitty gritty, the dirtiness, the humanity of a relationship, as opposed to what a lot of movies would have you believe. It's a standout hit. It caught me by surprise. Like, I knew nothing about it, and I'm glad that I watched it, and I think that it's changed me as a person, I guess, in a way as well. So if a movie can do that, I think it's pretty special.
Cool. I'm going to cut in here because it is also my number 3. Again, I reiterate, amazing acting across the board. Adam Driver, one of the best lip quivers in the business right now. If you've got somebody who can do a better lip quiver than Adam Driver, I'll be shocked. Amazing, really long takes, obviously. Has been capturing the full range of acting that they're doing. Just a bunch of amazing moments. The setup for this film is the perfect way to set up these characters, and then for it to come full circle at the end is super fitting and rewarding. Again, Laura Dern and Ray Liotta, Alan Alda also play great roles, even though they just play just kind of bad people, lawyers. I think
lawyers.
Yeah, anyone. Yeah. The other thing I appreciate about this film so much is it's so balanced. I've heard so many different discussions about this film about who's in the right, who's in the wrong of their relationship, and it's always so varied. You can read this film so many different ways and that kind of thing. And then Adam Driver sings, and
my answer is it's balance.
It's very balanced, yes. And yeah, Adam Driver sings, and I've been listening to Being Alive multiple times since. So, Dylan, what's your number 3?
Not Marriage Story. My number 3 is The Irishman. Martin Scorsese's Avengers. Simple, I don't know. A mob hitman recalls his possible involvement with the slaying of Jimmy Hoffa. I think, as I kind of said when we discussed this, in a lot of ways, I've there's 2 directors that when I was in high school that made me kind of fall in love with cinema, I guess, in a lot of ways. And or 3 really, in really different ways, but it's Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, and then Kevin Smith. Who are the 3 I'd kind of credit as, even though Kevin Smith, a lot of people would be like, get him out there. The other 2 makes sense. What's Kevin Smith doing? The thing, quality wise, doesn't make sense. But and just watching this movie and having all of these fantastical, best of their time in a lot of ways, actors get together and yet again for the last time, Harvey Keitel, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, and then you add in the wild card that was Al Pacino, having never worked with Scorsese before, but then it was still a reunion because it was a De Niro / Al Pacino from Heat is obviously their most memorable team up event before, so
They were both in Godfather too.
I was about to say they're both in Godfather Part 2, but they unfortunately
Never on screen together.
doesn't work out that they're on screen at the same time. I just think it's a really interesting story. I like the way Scorsese and screenwriter, well, he's always co-partner screenwriter for most of the time, Steven Zalian, or Zalian, however you say his name. I like the way they tell the story because, of course, a lot of people are like, "Oh, is it bullshit? Was Frank Sheeran really involved with all this stuff?" And to Scorsese, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, the story is the interesting part. Whether or not it actually happened or not doesn't matter. It's the movie is this guy is telling you the story, and we're going to present it that way, and then you can decide if it's bullshit or not. But either way, it makes a engaging and interesting story, and I thought it was really well shot and all these sorts of things. Obviously, we talked about once before the biggest problem with the CGI. It wasn't big enough to annoy me as much as yous, that's for sure. So that's why it's ended up on my list. But yeah, I was engaged. Where Ash was like, said the thing with 3 hours flew by for Avengers. I feel like that for this, I was just like entranced by watching these actors all on screen. So I loved Irishman.
Cool. Nick, what was your number 2 film of the year?
My number 2 was Dragged Across Concrete, written and directed by S. Craig Zahler. Once 2 overzealous cops get suspended from the force, they must delve into the criminal underworld to get their proper compensation, which I think is a very
vague
viewed out look of the movie. Yeah.
How do you for a movie that's like one? Yeah.
Yeah, it severely undersells what the movie is. I have gone on record as a big fan of S. Craig Zahler. I think he's a fantastic writer, director, author. For this movie, was my most anticipated film of the year, and it stood up for me. It's a story of 2 cops, which they're not portrayed in any particular positive light. I think all of the characters in this movie are terrible people. It's just a very gritty movie. Good performances by Mel Gibson, Vince Vaughn, Tori Kittles, Michael J. White. I think S. Craig Zahler has redeemed Vince Vaughn as a dramatic actor after what was True Detective Season 2.
He redeemed him with Brawl, really. Not this, but
sorry. Yeah.
He redeemed him with Brawl and then brought him over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as overall, not this particular movie. I really, really enjoyed the dialogue, especially the quirkiness of Mel Gibson's character, how he always
odds
speaks in probabilities. It's very confronting with its violence. It's I guess I want to say meandering, but not in a negative way. The way the story's told, it's very slow paced, and I guess I want to say human in its way, the way they interact with each other and the motivations behind them all. But yeah, I think it's one of the best movies of the year for me personally, and yeah.
If you want to hear us talk more about Dragged Across Concrete, you should check out episode 47 of What Do You Want to Watch, where we talked about Dragged Across Concrete as our What Are We Under Watching movie. Dylan, what is your number 2 film of the year?
My number 2 is Marriage Story. So I won't speak too much about it, but amazing performances, character piece, beautiful film that I think the reason I did like it so much is, well, it's just amazing performances, especially from Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, obviously. But then all the supporting cast, as you said, are also standout known rights. But I just love the way it just represents. It's like, hey, you know, like, it doesn't try to say, oh, this person's better than that. She's a bitch. She's a bastard. Like they both have problems in the movie. I like the way it presents them both. And then it's also just like, because I viewed the movie as not just a representation of marriage, but like a representation of relationships in general, right? Just boil it down to that. And it's just like, you know what? Sometimes shit happens. You know, like this is the reality, and this is like a very small personal family tale, and it's just, you know, you cry, you laugh. It's got everything. What more do you want? Marriage Story. 10 out of 10.
Cool. My number 2 film of the year is Parasite. Directed by Bong Joon-ho. All unemployed, Ki-taek and his family take peculiar interest in the wealthy and glamorous Parks as they integrate themselves in their lives and get entangled in unexpected incidents. One of the most crazy rides I've experienced in the cinema this year. Beautifully shot, beautifully acted, twists and turns. Story goes all over the place in ways I wasn't expecting. I don't want to discuss it too much because, again, it is something that should be experienced. And I know some people on this podcast haven't been able to see the film. I just want to confirm.
Yep, we definitely haven't seen it.
I definitely have not seen the movie.
Yeah. I feel like we'll need to do a full discussion once the movie comes out because it's one of those films that is like,
yeah, if only. Yeah.
If only.
Yeah, February.
Yes, February 14th, I believe, is when it comes out on Blu-ray and digital. Yep, so unless you want to hit up Madman and see if you can get them to either send a print to Launceston or send you a screener copy. We'll be talking about Parasite in February next year. But yeah, hell of a film. If it's playing to use, definitely go see it. Crazy it's still playing places. Crazy. So that brings us to our number ones. Nick, what is your number 1 film of 2019?
Death of Stalin.
No. I wish. No, my number 1, which surprised me a lot, is Ad Astra.
I will remain calm. I will remain focused.
You look just like your dad there.
He was the first man to the outer solar system. He was a pioneer. But there was much more to him than that.
Please, state your mission objective.
I am attempting to stop an uncontrolled antimatter reaction, which threatens our entire solar system.
We're approaching Mars.
Spacecom believes my father's responsible.
I was enamored by this movie. Just the performance of Brad Pitt, it's grand in scale, but the story itself is very personal. To me, it's a story of a man trying to, I guess, separate himself, but also in the same way kind of live up to his legacy of his father's deeds and his, how famous he is and whatnot in his pioneering. Beautifully shot. It's really the only movie that I wish that I had saw in cinemas that I didn't get a chance to.
That moon chase on a big screen.
Oh yeah,
so good.
Another thing that stood out to me that might not be as prevalent to people that aren't as, I guess, knowledgeable about space physics and stuff like that was the sound design. That sound design? Exactly, in the upper atmosphere, that the sound was very muted, or when they were in space itself, there was barely any sound at all. I loved the world building that they built up. The technology that they used was very realistic. It's not that far from, I guess, the structures and stuff they use today, where it's cost-effective, light and resilient and stuff like that, easy to replace. Yeah, I just love this movie. I've seen it being referred to as Apocalypse Now in Space, which I think it draws close comparisons to, but I don't think that is a detriment to it at all. Yeah, it's quite a surprise for me because I had no idea anything about this movie going into it, but it ended up topping out my list.
Cool. Yeah, so I've seen it recently. I enjoyed it. I clearly didn't love it as much as you, but it is definitely an interesting film. Dylan, what's your number 1 film of 2019?
My number 1 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I'm Rick Dalton. It's my pleasure, Mr. Schwartz.
Call me Marvin. Put it there. That your son?
No, it's my stunt double, Cliff Booth.
Last night we watched a Rick Dalton double feature. All the shooting. I love that stuff, you know, with the killing.
A lot of killing.
Anybody order fried sauerkraut? Damn you Nazi bastards!
Seems this world got you down. You're feeling bad vibrations.
Are you an actor?
No, I'm a stuntman.
Girl, look at me.
So you still with Rick, huh? Still here.
You can do anything you want to him.
We're gonna have a
I hired you to be an actor, Rick, not a TV cowboy. You're better than that.
Line?
The Quentin Tarantino movie. A faded television actor and his stunt double strive to achieve fame and success in the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age in 1969, Los Angeles. My story for this is that I had it. This is the number one. This is the only movie I wanted to rewatch before deciding its official place. Like I had it in my top 10. I'm like, it's for sure in my top 10, but I felt like I really needed to rewatch it, where to place it. And that was because as much as I loved it the first time we watched it, as I discussed on here, I felt like I was like very much like thrill ride on the edge of my seat because I didn't know where the ending was going to go. And I remember at the time saying I really wanted to rewatch it a second time and see if I enjoyed it as much, knowing where it goes and like would it change my viewing experience. Without spoiling the ending, I can say that after watching it once and knowing where it goes, the second time I watched it, it was just a much more fun and beautiful movie, I think, like especially like a celebration of late 60s cinema, and I just got to kind of relax more and just enjoy it as that. Like walking out of my lounge room. The second time
Standing
after
up.
watching it, my favorite scene in the whole movie is literally all of that scene where Leonardo DiCaprio's character Rick Dalton is all on the film sets, filming all that stuff with Timothy Dalton playing I can't remember the real actor that he's playing in it. What does it say? James Stacey, right? Filming all that stuff. Like all of that I think is fantastic. It means absolutely nothing to the main movie's plot. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's the reason a lot of people don't like the movie, because there's not an actual like plot per se. Obviously, it's just a very character piece driven movie that it weirdly takes place over like 2-3 days or whatever it is, and then jumps ahead 6 months for the final day. So it's quite weird how it's all over the place. But Brad Pitt is fantastic in this. I think he's better in Ad Astra, but his performance in this is also quite good. I think Brad Pitt's just on a comeback tour at the moment for his acting in a lot of ways. Leonardo DiCaprio is absolutely amazing in this. I think like his performance, the fact that he gets away with this subtle character piece. Well, it's not even subtle, but it's like the character piece that he stutters when he's talking as Rick. But then in the movie when he's acting as Rick, the stutter goes because he's acting. But like they never mention it, and I love it. Like it's just a little character piece that's added in. I also love how Tarantino manages. He's like, oh, I've got this movie with no action in it. Like, how do I keep the the audience entertained in a movie? So that's how but then he introduces all these cutaways to Rick's films, and that's how he gets the action scenes into the movie in a movie that doesn't actually have a lot of action, of course, until the final scene. I think Margot Robbie's really fantastic as Sharon Tate as well. I don't fully agree with the fact that she should have had more to do in the movie. I like that she's just given these pieces as like a celebration of Sharon Tate without trying to take her and make Tate into something that she maybe was or wasn't. No, I think it's a really just a stunningly shot, wonderfully acted movie that I could really enjoy watching, especially knowing where the ending goes. I can now get there and just be like, you're fucking yeah. Let's do it. But yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Cool. All right, my number one film of 2019 is The Farewell.
What's wrong, Dad? Please tell me.
Your Nan is dying.
She doesn't know, so you can't say anything. The family thinks it's better not to tell her.
Why is that better?
Chinese people have saying, when people get cancer, they die.
I have to go
to China.
Wedding is an excuse so everyone can see her.
He's my only cousin. Did you think I should be there?
You can't hide your emotions. If you go, Nana will find out right away.
Really 呀？咋啦？咋不说话呢？今天人多齐呀，好久没这么聚了。奶奶就
It
等着
just
这一天呢。
hit me in all the right places when I watched it. I feel like the clash of cultures and just the struggle of being part of both, but not being part of either one completely struck a chord with me. I just the whole keeping that secret from the grandmother was fun, and I understand you not liking that shot, but I understand that what she was going for, like it's a friggin' heist thing that they do at the end where they're trying to keep the secret going. Again, just the small side plots of this wedding. These two kids that clearly have only been dating like a couple of weeks have decided to get married, and they neither knows exactly what's going on. They're both incredibly naive and going along with everything.
Well, the woman can't even understand.
No, she speaks Japanese. She's Japanese, so she doesn't understand what anyone's saying.
Yeah.
So yes, and the grandmother is like one of the best performances of the year.
Yep.
She should be in the Oscar race. For best supporting actress. She's freaking phenomenal. Just every time she's on screen, you're like, why are you lying to this woman? She's just such a beautiful person.
Beautiful old lady.
Beautiful old lady. But yeah, it just the tone and everything just was completely in my ballpark, and I love it to bits. So those were our top films of 2019. If you want to see the Explosion Network's best of 2019 films, which should all be out now, including our TV content, including our video game content, you can go to explosionnetwork.com. Check it all out. Tell us what we got right. Tell us what we really got right.
/ best of 2019. We'll get you there.
explosionnetwork.com / best of 2019. It'll get you to it much quicker. All right. So Nick's had to drop out, unfortunately. So it's just me and Dylan talking about what did we end up watching. Dylan, what did we end up watching?
The Station Agent.
Finn is about to start a new life.
Where do you live?
In the depot.
What grade are you in?
I'm finished with school.
Olivia is leaving her old life behind.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Can I give you a ride somewhere?
No.
You're sure?
Yes. How you doing?
And Joe.
Do you sell coffee? Where you from? Hoboken. I live in Manhattan, dude.
Just doesn't have a life.
I've been here for 6 weeks. It's driving me crazy.
But together,
Hey, how you doing out there?
We don't have to talk, we can just eat.
Okay.
they're trying to get their lives back on track.
This was fun, right?
Yeah.
Yes, The Station Agent, directed by Tom McCarthy, starring Peter Dinklage, Patricia Clarkson, Bobby Cannavale, Michelle Williams. When his only friend dies, a man born with dwarfism moves to rural New Jersey to live a life of solitude, only to meet a chatty hot dog vendor and a woman dealing with her own personal loss. This has been on my radar for a while. Obviously, I watched Spotlight earlier this year. Thought it was one of the best films of the year. Probably one of the best films I've watched this year. Of course, it was released back in 2015, but going back through Tom McCarthy's work, he has a weird list of stuff he's worked on. He got a writing credit on Up. He directed the unaired pilot to Game of Thrones. He directed The Cobbler with Adam Sandler. Then did Spotlight, which got universal acclaim. Executive produced 13 Reasons Why. Wrote on Christopher Robin. Created The Loudest Voice, the Roger Ailes Fox News show. And is set to do a Disney Plus action-adventure show, kids movie called Timmy Failure, Mistakes Were Made, coming next year. So, an odd list of things, but I did see this was his first piece of work, the debut of Peter Dinklage, so it was something I wanted to check out. Dylan, what did you think of The Station Agent?
Is this actually the debut of Peter Dinklage's first
I believe
movie?
so. That's where I've seen it written in different places.
I was like, I'll scroll quickly. But uncredited, random bit piece. No, he's in a couple of movies, but I don't know if they're small.
Maybe
this
a
is probably his
proper
first starring
lead.
role. Yeah, for sure. All right. Yeah, this seems like this. Okay. I liked it. Fine. I think I gave it like a 7 on Trakt or something like that. I thought the performances just carry a rather simple tale, I guess. I feel like the movie would fall apart without the performances. Like it hinges on the performances, selling you the characters and the story it's trying to tell. And if any of the characters, the three main, which is Peter Dinklage, Bobby Cannavale, and Patricia Clarkson's character, if any three of those had been miscast or horribly acted or anything, I feel like the whole movie just falls apart.
Yeah.
So it's like very reliant on them. Peter Dinklage's character is, I guess, riding on a stereotype, and it kind of breaks towards the end, and I guess this comes down to my biggest problem with the movie, which is, and I know it was released like ages, when was this, 2003 or something? I don't remember.
Yeah.
What's it say? 2003. Okay, yeah, good. 2003. I know it's like quite a long time ago, and I don't know, I can't really remember what it was like in 2003, but I feel like if this released today, I wouldn't give it a very great score, because I would just be like, okay, like you're relying very heavily on everyone's making fun of Peter Dinklage's character when he walks into a room. Like, especially the first 10, 15 minutes of this movie, it was nearly ludicrous in my mind how everyone was looking and staring at him. And I don't know if that's just me, but I felt like it was too heavy-handed. Like, you couldn't at least have a shot of him walking up the street and not having everyone stare at him, and then have him get around the corner and have the little shit kids make fun of him. No, it's like he goes up the street, everyone's staring and making fun of him. Oh, short ass. Oh, like, oh, do you need a stepladder? Or, like all the typical jokes, right? And then he goes around the corner, he gets in the shop, everyone's staring, blah, blah, blah. It seemed very heavy-handed with the, everyone's picking on him and making fun of him. And of course, that's like a big part of the movie. But it just, the first 10 minutes or so, I was getting like, it's a bit much. Like, literally everyone but his one friend is making fun of him. It felt like it was too much for me. Like, can we just, like, too heavy-handed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can understand that criticism. I think, again, it might have been of that time. I feel like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with. 2003.
Especially post Game of Thrones, I feel like no one would look the second way at a dwarf walking down the street.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the film as well. I don't think it's like stellar, amazing, but again, it's based on that character work between that that core group of characters at the start. But yeah, I can understand why Peter Dinklage would hold this film in high regard. Obviously, a first leading role, he gets the opportunity to play a full character rather than probably just a dwarf or short person. I feel like his character Finn has multiple layers. Is weirdly able to bring people. He attracts people to him throughout the film, which is
together.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed Bobby Cannavale in this as the the hyperactive.
He's great in this. Yeah.
Best friend. Even though he also has a few things that are a bit, that's a bit of this time as well. Talking about different sex things and that kind of stuff. But it was shot very well. Obviously, they do a lot of stuff with trains and that kind of thing. Obviously, it's a big thing throughout the entire film. I had a good time. I think it's a pretty solid film. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of What Do You Want to Watch? Seeing as Nick's not here, I can tell you for sure, you can definitely find him on Twitter at Lord N. Pryor. He is there constantly, all the time. It is crazy how much he is tweeting at the moment. So get in while the going is good.
Unless his New Year's resolution was to stop tweeting again.
Well, then you're dead out of luck. You can also find him on Trakt. that username. Dylan, where can people find you on the internet?
All the places at Vivaladil, VIVALADIL.
You can find me at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEY, HOBLEY. You can follow the Exposure Network on Twitter at Explosion Pod. You can go to youtube.com/Explosion Network to see our video content, including a bunch of review discussions we've been doing, including the spoiler one, which came out recently. Or you can go to Explosion Network to find all past episodes of What Do You Want to Watch, all our best of 2019 content, and all our other awesome podcasts and content articles, news, reviews, everything. It's there. Go to explosionnetwork.com/Discord to join the Discord. Send us an email at mail@explosionnetwork.com. And if you want to help us out, leave us a review either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or leave us something nice on Twitter. Or tell your friends. Tell them to listen to our Best of 2019 Films episode, because everybody needs to know what were the best films of 2019. We gave you less than 30 good ones. They're there. All right. Thank you very much for listening. And until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Every trophy counts. Don't be told otherwise. Join myself and Ash each Tuesday when a shiny new episode of Platinum Explosion dings into podcast feeds. The #1 PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias breaks down all the latest in PlayStation-related news, releases, trophy lists, and much, much more. Just search your podcast app for Platinum Explosion and subscribe for free now.